Hi everybody. So this is going to be the video for tutorial 4, lab 4. What we're going to do is we're going to start with lab 3, which was your gatehouse that you created the central passage through, your portcullis, etc. And what I'm going to ask you all to do in this one is to learn a little bit about medieval vaulting by learning about things like profiles and sweeping curves, a little bit similar to what you've done before. We're going to add a few new tools to this tutorial, including the revolve tool. And we're also generally going to get a little bit more complicated with the way that we do sketches that are going to be references for different parts um, of the bodies, how we're going to create those sweeps, that kind of stuff. So this is a relatively complicated vaulting system, which I'm going to simplify a bit. By vaulting, what we mean is the stone ceilings that we see here. In this case, what we're seeing is an example of a rib vault. It's also a cross vault, so you can see that from this perspective, it looks like things are crossing over. It's two barrel vaults kind of intersecting, and we're going to see that. I'm going to simplify the first one and then give you a much more complicated way of doing what is called a domical vault. Most of the time, to be honest, you're not going to get two perfectly straight uh, tunnel vaults or barrel vaults that are going to intersect. You're going to actually have them where the two vaults that intersect are going to kind of curve in the middle, and they're going to be higher in the middle. This is what sort of makes them domical, right? It means that they are dome-like. Whereas you see down here, I simplified it a bit just to sort of keep things moving, but I wanted to give you the proper way to do it up here for the smaller space as well. So that's why there's two different ways of doing it. Okay, so let's keep an eye on a few things. One of the things I want you all to remember is, just as we had with the previous tutorial, I want to make sure that you all, when you're doing your drawings, make sure that you try to snap to the grid and that you pull things out when you're trying to do extrusions and things like that. That you pull them out to places that hit the grid. You'll just be happier for it. I will show you in case you do try to make it super precise and you drop something off in the middle of a point just to try to do your tracing exact and things aren't lining up correctly. I'll show you how to fix that with a few different tools. But just make your life easier and stick to the grid. Um, Another thing to remember is right here. I think this has changed since the previous version of the software. You can see just kind of if you really look closely here, there's a dotted construction line there. It used to be that you could sweep things across construction lines. Now I think they actually have to be proper design lines, like just proper lines like you've seen here. So that's okay. It's just a quick fix, and I kind of highlighted them in red here just to sort of make sure that you all knew that part. Um, and yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, so watch the video. I'm going to be changing my view quite a bit, and that's not easy to do um, in this kind of step-by-step text way, so it's maybe not as clear, so that's why I'm going to record this video. Okay, so let's switch over to Fusion. And your very first step is you're going to go over to your tutorial 3, and we're going to we can open up this one. I have two versions of it. That's all right. Doesn't matter. Um, so I'm going to open this up, and the very first step I'm going to take is I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to Save As. And I can save it right now. It's already looking for tutorial 4. If you open this up, you can just kind of click here, click on the word for tutorials just to sort of go back a thing. And if you need to, you can create a new folder called tutorial 4, and then I'm asking you all to save it as with your name and lab. So I'll call this 4B just to make sure. Okay, so here is lab 4B. If I go back here, I can see now there's 4B. Okay, so that's what's. I'm going to close the one from before. We're only working on 4B. Oh, it looks like I've got a little bit of an error here. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Um, Allow me to pause for a moment. Okay, sorry about that. Let me go back and do this one more time. It looks like there was a I'm not entirely sure what that was, but let's do this correctly either way. If I open up my tutorial 3, looks like there was something going on where the second half of the gatehouse is missing from this one, but that's okay. The video tutorial version has this intact. I'll just repeat that really quick. I'm going to go to File, Save As. Tutorial 4. I can call this. I'm going to call it Lab 4, and maybe just remind myself which course we're working with. And yeah, that'll be fine. I need to be sure that everything is where it should be. If there's 4B right there. Okay, so that's good. We're going to start from here, and the first thing that we want to do is do a quick sketch of this interior space to the left. Okay, so that's pretty easy. I'm just going to turn off this body one. I'm going to just sort of rename this walls really quick, and turn that off. I only have the front portcullis. You all should probably have a front arch and a back arch as well as two portcullises. I'm going to leave that alone for now. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to, instead of just drawing right on this one, I suppose I could, but I kind of want to leave it as it is. I'm going to create a new sketch right on the floor. So I should be able to select if I leave the walls up, should be able to select that. Yeah, I could always select the sketch itself. Um, so I'm gonna be sketching on the bottom here. So since this is kind of a little wonky, I'm gonna turn it upside down, and I'm gonna be working on the left hand or right side up. I'm gonna be working on the left hand side of the gatehouse here. Okay, so this is really quite easy. We kind of want snap to grid up. We want the grid to be on and to be incremental. So since we're drawing here, we should be seeing that as we zoom in, we get finer and finer grid marks. This part really doesn't matter. Just sort of eyeball your shape on in here. I'm going to go and make it 7.5 by 6. And I'm going to end right here, right where this crossing is. Because what actually happens is this cross vault is going to kind of continue until we hit to here, and then we're going to kind of rotate that around just to keep it really, really simple. So that's done. I'm going to just draw a couple of lines, and I'm going to end them right about where I think that this curve is going to start, which should be right about in the center of that circle. So something along, and again, making this easier on yourself, I'm going to say, no, just leave it at 2.5. It'll be fine. Um, and if I want to make sure that everything is perfectly parallel, which is always a good idea, I can just draw a quick construction line in here and mirror it. Hit X to make that a construction line. Go up to mirror, select my mirror line, and I should have another one over here. Now these are identical, and I can do a quick 3-point arc. And I have to stop when it hits tangent. Okay, so this isn't, so that's where I was saying that, maybe 2.5 wasn't a good number for that because it's a little short. But fortunately, I can hit the D key, and I'm going to push this out. I'm going to say, let's make this 2.75. And what do you know? That works. Okay, so since these are mirrored, these are going to be identical. And then I know that that's actually a solid length that I can extrude when I actually get my vault started. So that'll become clear in just. Okay, so that's one piece. On the same sketch, we can also do two more just sort of um, floor sketches just to trace around these two. So I'll kind of zoom in here. And let's see if I can find a good spot to snap. Okay, so this will be, let's say, 2.45 by 2.75. I kind of prefer that. 5 by 7. That's fine. And I'll do the same thing for the stairwell. I can do that either as a center circle with a radius, diameter, I should say. Um, or you could do like a 3-point circle if you wanted and just kind of select things. This is just fine for me. Okay, that's it. So we're going to finish that sketch. We don't need much more for that. I'm going to hit finish here. And now I think for sure I want to turn off that wall's body because I don't really want to be working and seeing it too much. I still have everything I need right here. My next step is going to be to, and you'll see here, we've done these two. We're going to be extruding these pieces up. So this little space right here corresponds to this one. This larger space that we just traced corresponds to this, and the circular one corresponds to that. Just to kind of keep my notes straight here. Okay, so I'm going to click on these two first. And if I wanted to, I could also kind of turn that into a construction line, but it doesn't really matter for now. I'm going to go up to extrude, give ourselves a little space here. And if I switch to front view, I can now pull this up to right where what's called the springing of the vault begins. And the springing of the vault is always going to be right where you see these corbels start. So you can see this, this kind of a view as well. I'm going to pull it up just a little bit. And what you need to remember is that what we need is this inner line because we're not actually doing a rib vault. So what we really care about is this kind of shape, not this one. Because you can see how that one kind of turns a little bit straight there, goes in. That's what's called a stilted arch, one of the terms for it. So I'll hit OK there. We're going to need to turn our sketches back on because they do tend to disappear. Just to make sure I don't lose it, I'm going to call that sketch left side exterior. So we make sure that those are on. I can now select visible. I can select this one, and this one really doesn't matter because it's going to go all the way up through the roof. So for me, I can extrude this up, and as long as I know that I'm higher than the roof line, I don't really care how I do this. I really need to be that high, and that'll be okay. Okay, because that's the stairs. Um, this one, on the other hand, we do have to be a little bit more careful with. I'm going to hit extrude here. And I'm going to look at this from the left-hand side. And I'm just going to pull it up. So since we don't have a sketch from this direction, I think what I want to do is look at it from this view. And I'm just going to pull this one up. 3 is pretty close. Really have a problem with that. I might go just a little bit further. And I'll hit OK. Okay, so now we have a few different things to work from. Okay, so our next step is going to be to sketch this inner part of the arch here. And since we have a curved line here, it might make sense to just sort of change your view a little bit. Holding down Shift and middle mouse button is much easier, in my opinion. Do it however you want. Select this piece in the back and say Create Sketch. And that's going to flip you around. If you're confused by that, this is sort of what we're talking about right here, where this kind of, when we flip it around, it looks like a mirror image of that because we're drawing on that plane. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to do, I think this is just good practice. I think when you're doing this kind of thing, I'm just going to hit select the top line on here and hit the P key. Make sure that's selected, I guess, twice. That's fine. And I'm going to project that line onto this plane. And the purpose of that is because now that I have that line, now I know that there's a center point for it. to keep me a little bit on target here. Good. And this can be, I'm going to switch this to a construction line. And that gives me everything that I need to do. Make sure that they're tangent. Okay, that's useful. You can do the same thing on the opposite side or mirror it. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's just faster to. Okay, good. All right, we have the piece that we need for that. We're also going to have to create another piece in here to do the opposite side. So remembering that it's a cross vault. Let's just extrude this one first. So the first thing I want to do is pull this out here with the extrude tool. Once we finish our sketch, of course. Sorry about that. I'm going to pull this out with the extrude tool, and I'm going to pull it out till it hits this point here. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to do this. I can pull it out like this and then look at the top view, and when it lines up with this line, I can say -6, that's fine. Or alternatively, there's another option I haven't shown you all yet, which is you can do your distance right here, and it says you can measure. I apologize. We want to go to, instead of extent type, we want to go to an object. So what I'm going to do is say to object, and then say extrude it till it hits this point here, and that, if you look in the top, that is what we're actually trying to snap to. So that's a useful trick. And I'm going to hit join there. That's fine. Join is fine as long as you don't have your walls visible. Otherwise, you're kind of doing a lot of work that's all going to be joined inside something else. Good. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is create another sketch on this plane. And this time we're going to do the same thing we've done before. Just select a couple of lines here. This one and this one are fine. Don't necessarily need this one. Take the top one while we're at it. And hit OK. Okay. Now we have those lines projected here, which of course means that we also have a center line. I'm going to turn that into, I think I might just get rid of the two here. Really. And that means I've got my space for my 3-point arc. That works. Now this one is a little bit different. What you'll see here is because there is no line right here, watch what happens when I try to draw this. It's going to struggle a little bit to find tangent, and unless it's going to do tangent off of that line. So sometimes, depending on your view, that can get like a little weird. If it just won't find tangent, that's totally fine. You can use this just as a mirror line again. So there's lots of different ways to do. I think I'm going to make sure that these stay, just to be clear, really clear, that these stay as construct. And I'll finish that sketch. So here's your first cross vault. We're going to select that after we've hit stop sketch, and we're going to extrude it. I'll look down at top view, and again I can do that same trick I did before just to show you to object, and I'll select this object. And instead of a cut, we're going to do a join and hit OK. So now if you hold down shift and wheel around, you're starting to see that we've got at least the interior space for our first cross vault. All right, the next thing we want to do is just continue this barrel vault up to here. That's pretty easy. I can hit extrude and either, as I said, pull it out this way, or instead, I'm going to go to object. Sometimes I just think that's a little faster. Okay, it's joined. All right, now we have to do one more. What we're going to want to do is create the half dome for this, which means that we're going to just cut a section through here and just revolve it around this space. And because this was tangent, we know that it will actually make a perfect half circle. So I'll select that, create a new sketch. I can pull down Shift and let's hit the P key to check them. It always wants me to select it after the P. That's okay. Okay, and then all we need from here is a line right down the center. And make sure that it hits that triangle. Now we have one piece. I'm going to finish that sketch, and we're just going to do a quick revolve. I'll go to Create, Revolve. There's my profile already selected. Where's my axis? My axis will be this one. And instead of a cut, you can just do a join. If you wanted to, you could also say that you only want it to go 180 degrees. But since it's all interior and it's all going to be one object, it doesn't actually matter with this. Thought I'd mention that. So that's that part done. Okay, so now you have your dome as well. So let's move on to something a little bit more complicated. So this little space, we're going to do that that domical vault. That's going to take us a little bit more complicated, just in a little bit more complicated direction. Let's select this front one. I'm going to hit Create Sketch. Okay, and right in here, just as we've done in the past, I'm going to hit the P key, select this top line, and hit OK. And the purpose for that, we've done a million times, is to get our center point, our center axis, I should say. I'm going to hit X. And I'm going to do a couple of new things. I'm going to draw a couple more lines that are perfectly parallel and the same height as that. And this will become clear why we're doing this. Okay, so you can see that was my trick. I'll do the same thing with this line. If you want something to be the exact same height as something else, you can click first the bottom here, then move to the thing you want it to be the height of, and then sort of trace that green dotted line, that guide that gives you, that helps you out there. Make sure that these things stay perpendicular on the bases. Sometimes when if you're zoomed way in, the snapping will fool you. Don't see this little thing right here that says it's perpendicular. You've made a mistake. Okay, good. Okay, that's about all I need because what I want to do is create a line up here, and it's generally going to just follow what I believe this curve ought to be. This is going to be kind of up to you how you want to do it. This is actually going to be the curve. I'm going to select this one, and make them construction lines. This one cannot be a construction line as of the newer version of the software. I think maybe just a little while ago, you could also sweep lines across construction lines, but now they actually have to be proper design lines. But that's not really, it's not a huge deal. Let me finish this off by doing what I've done in the past, which is just to create the tangent curve right here. Perfect. Okay, that's all set up. All right, that should help us quite well. So that's our first one. And I'll hit Finish Sketch, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a moment. I'm going to select this side, and we're going to hit Create Sketch. And again, we're going to do a little bit of work to hit the P key. And I'm going to select a few things here to help me out. Okay. So now we have the height that we want to make the entire thing. We also have the height where this is going to merge. We've got everything that we need. I'm going to draw another line. That is the height of this. Escape to clear that. Select it, hit X. I'll do another one down the middle. And that has to be the same height. X. And I will just do this one first. Normally I do this in a different order, but that's okay for now. That's 10. Okay, so now we've got this shape. What I need is another line across the top Okay, because the arch I need to draw is going to be like this. Okay, so I'm going to draw from here up. That'll give me the height. I'll hit X again. So this is just so I can get the middle point of that. Now I'm just going to draw that line. Okay, and these, I think it's better off that we make these construction lines. So let's hit finish sketch. We're ready to go. And so if I hold down shift and show you, this is basically what you're going to draw. Now you can actually leave the cross piece right here if you really needed to. You could have just dotted lines across here, just guides. But for me, this is going to work out just fine. The next step is to do a quick sweep, and we're going to do a different kind of sweep than we've done before. This is going to be a parallel instead of a perpendicular sweep, and I'll show you that really quick here. So I'm going to select these two profiles, and if this is set to perpendicular, which often, and also if chain selection is on, deselect this, but um, you'll see why. But I'll just say, just do not use chain selection because it'll guess that you want to actually sweep something across the entire curve if two curves are attached to each other or chained. We don't want that. So I've got two profiles selected, and if it's perpendicular, you'll notice you're going to get an error. Okay, it says, oh, what's happening, right? It doesn't understand the path is tangent to the profile. What you want is parallel, and you can see it's going to kind of lift everything up like this, and it's just going to do sort of a parallel jumping sweep. And instead of a cut, let's do a join. It's fine. You can even just do a new body, actually. For this one, you'll join the second one, and you'll hit OK. And then we're going to repeat that. We have to turn that sketch back on, but that's not hard. Hold down Shift for both of those. We'll do another sweep. Our settings should be the same. Instead of new body, we'll switch to join. My path should be this path. Okay, so I'm going to take this and move it across this path. That ought to do it. And what you'll see in the preview is that now you have a sort of domical vault, and that will help you understand how these things kind of work. And I'll hit OK. Okay, so one thing you may notice, and I'm going to turn off my canvases. There's something a little bit strange on the bottom here. What I'm going to do really quick is select that sketch on the bottom, and I'm just going to do a quick press pull, and instead of a cut, I'm just going to do a join to flatten the bottom. Because when you did the parallel, it sort of was creating a canopy on the floor, which you don't really. So that's just like a nice cleanup effort. It may not exactly be spelled out for you. Okay, so let me conclude here. I'm gonna turn on all of my bodies, especially the walls. I don't need the portcullis. Let's turn all these other bodies on though. And we're gonna do a quick combine. Let's wait. Actually, let's pause on that. Went a little bit out of order, so let's turn off these walls. We still have to do the arrow loops, which I completely forgot about. So let's turn our canvases back on, and we still need to do these, right? We're also going to do this one right here. So the quick step for that is you're going to create a tangent plane because you need something to draw. You're going to draw this one first, and you just need a flat plane in order to draw on anything in this software. So we're going to go to construct tangent plane, and if you selected this curve tool, it's going to put this at 0 degrees, which is dead center. It's possible it may ask you to turn it 90 degrees, but it should be right, and it should look about like that. It should be. Um, that's fine. I'll hit OK. And we're going to select this new plane, and I'm going to create a new sketch. And I'm going to use this window here as just sort of a rough idea of what I'm looking for. And this one, instead of being a peaked arch, let's just do it as a very simple, just a really simple curved arch. I'm going to make this 1 meter across. And I want to make sure that it stays just in the dead center. Okay, so that's 1 meter. I don't really care about the rest of that. we're going to be kind of mimicking this height a little bit, so I'll just maybe pull it up to here. I'll hit the D key just to make this a nice flat number. Let's say 2 point. That'll be fine. What I want to do is I can make this a construction line and this one a construction line. I just want these, and we'll mirror it just to make sure that this is in the dead center. And let's go 1, 2, and that's a little bit higher than I really wanted this to be, but that's okay since I have this defined length. I'm just going to shorten it, say 2.2, and that'll lower it so that it generally. I mean, this is not super important. You're just kind of since you don't have anything to trace here, we're just going to kind of follow what's going on with the height of this. I'll hit finish sketch there. All right. Again, we want to make sure that we are extruding out without merging in this case. So I'm going to hit extrude. I'm going to look at this from the top down. And you can see that this, like all of this is the space where you might be standing inside the wall. This is the actual proper arrow loop. So this is, this is kind of a different way of looking at things. I'm going to pull this up to 1.10 and make sure that this says new body. If it says join, it might join it to this, and that's going to cause you problems. I'll leave that where it is. Okay. And then as we can see, this is a much smaller arrow loop than this entire thing. We can't just taper that through. Let's do another quick sketch and just offset what we've already got. Now this is pretty quick and dirty. You might really actually want to like draw your own inside here, but I'm just going to do this super fast. Hit offset, pull this in, let's say negative 0.6, and that'll work. Okay, so now we have something else to fire through, and we want to extrude this out. And this time we are going to join. I'll finish that sketch. We're going to do an extrusion, and this time we want to join. Good, it switched for us, which is good. And as I look down at this, I see I made a mistake, but that's okay. I'll get this one correct first, and then I'll correct the second one after that. We're going to taper this down like negative 10. Let's see what that does. Maybe even negative 12. Yeah, that let's just stick with it. Nice round number. Okay. Okay, so that one is tapering properly. What isn't tapering properly, and we may actually have to work on this a little bit. Let's go to this particular extrude. I'm going to edit that feature, and I just simply forgot to taper this, let's say negative 6 degrees, maybe? Look at that from the top. Negative 6 is okay. You can even do negative 7. Yeah, why not? Okay. Now we have something that is maybe tapering a little bit too much because when we offset it, we cause a little trouble there. So let's edit this, and instead of negative 10, let's say negative 6. Yeah, that'll give us something that will work. All right, so that's just how to remember how to make your corrections go back to the future. Okay, so one thing that's happening here, you can see because we were drawing on a plane and not directly on the surface here, well, all we want to do is pull this in, but we want it to maintain its taper. So instead of extrude here, what we're going to want is press pull. Press pull, you'll see, will get bigger as it moves back. And I'm just going to pull that just enough so that it goes inside the building. And I'll hit OK. Okay, and it's still a new body, so we have no problems with that. Let's rename at least this body the arrow loop. Okay, so the arrow loop is now going to need to get repeated a few times. And this is actually quite easy. This is a thing that you all have not done yet. You did it with the corbels, but you didn't do this last step that I'm going to show you. I'm going to create a pattern, circular pattern, with that object. Okay, so it's on bodies, one object selected. The axis I want. The axis I want. So the axis is going to be this one on the inside. Okay, so you can't see it. So I'm going to have to turn my body off for that. There we are. And I'm going to need the sketch that fits right here. And that. This is why you should always label your sketches. Good. Okay, so this, since this is where we rotated before, this is where we're going to rotate again. And that's going to create a few different copies. And in this case, I'm going to turn not my walls, but this body. I'm going to turn that back on. And you can see this is definitely off. Um, I've known just by looking at this um, that it's sort of creating a pentagonal shape. So if I had 5 copies of these, this lines up pretty closely. And I'm eyeballing. I mean, I could always kind of rotate this one a little bit more. I could do these individually if I really cared. But if we're pretending that these things are really very mathematical, that's totally fine. What you want to do is check this box called suppress, and that just allows you to delete things that you don't want. So I'm just going to say I don't want these two, um, and I'm going to hit OK. Good. And I still have one more. I'm going to do this one right here. So I'm going to go back to that original arrow loop. I'm going to hit move copy, and I'm going to check the copy tag right here. And this is just couldn't be more simple. I'm going to just move it out. I'm going to move this in, rotate it 90 degrees, and just generally get it into position. If I need to, I can zoom in a bit and pull this back until it suits what I'm looking. If I zoom in, I'm getting a little bit more fine, and so my grid is a little bit easier to work with. And I'll just hit OK. Okay, so this is going to wrap it up. I'm going to hold down Shift, change my view. And now we have all of these interior spaces, but we need to remove them from the original walls. So I'll turn the walls back on. I'll select them, and I'll hit the Combine tool. So it knows that the target body is the walls. Tool bodies, of course, and we're on Cut, are all these other things. So we're going to cut the arrow loops out. Those are going to get removed. Body 21 is this one in the back. 20 is the staircase kind of tube. And then body 19, that's the big one that we were doing. Hit OK. Good. All right. And if I turn off my canvases, I'll turn off my sketches as well. We can't quite see these super well, but I think it's useful to just switch our wireframe to, or visualization to wireframe with hidden edges, and then you can kind of see, what the shape of everything is. I want to turn my arches back on just so I can get my bearings a little bit. And this should be working pretty well. You can see how it works. If you want to do a little bit more, you can also do an inspection, which you've done before, and we can do a section analysis. We can maybe start from the bottom and work down like this, and we can kind of see the way things taper as they move up. I'll hit cancel to that. Another way to do this would be to inspect from the top. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull down, just have a look this way. All right, that's what I did before. Undo that. Turn off that analysis. Bottom analysis. Good. Turn it on here, and then we'll pull up. There we are. That is interesting. When I change my view, it kind of, and I can pull this down. So now when I look up, I can really see how things are working. I think that's kind of useful. And hit OK. Yeah, that's fine. I can turn it off. So your homework, to get to the important stuff. What I'm going to want you all to do is let's turn our canvases back on. Let's look at the front here. You can see that there are passages between this room and that room. Okay, and you can see them in the section, this lateral section, as well as the plan. You can see where that little doorway is. See, oh, just that the stairwell itself also has a little doorway. Do connect these. Okay, so there's a few ways to do it. I'll let you all figure that part out. Hint, you're going to probably be using this plane right here that's on the inside of the building. And you can do that by try to select it by doing a section. You can go back in your history. It's kind of up to you how you want to do it. The other thing, the more interesting thing to do is I would like you all to create a very simple tunnel vaulted space right up here. Okay. And I want you to, even though we don't see it in this plan, I want you to cut murder holes into from that room, this room right here, into this space down here. Okay, so think a little bit about where murder holes actually appear. And if we go to look at your handout, you can see here are some examples of murder holes that are in that exact same space. So that's just an opportunity for you guys to, I say the exact same space. They're very similar interior of a gatehouse. It's maybe pretty. So I thought I would leave you all with that. Those are going to be your homework stages in it. All right. So I will see you all soon, and good luck.